I mean, I would challenge anybody listening to this podcast. Can you see a scenario where your sales are zero and you're serving your customer? And I think that universally the answer to that question is that no, you didn't serve your customer. And of course you didn't serve your business either.
Welcome to another edition of the NiceJob Podcast. If you like what you hear, please give this video a like and subscribe to get new content first. As always, these are just the highlights of our episode. For the full conversation, head to our podcast platforms. All right, let's see who our guest is today.
Hi, I'm Curt Kempton. Today I want to talk to you about the sales outline for non-sleazy salespeople.
Get that notepad active because I have a feeling this one in particular is going to be a signature notepad episode. And it's because the expert that we have joining us today, I'm going to go out and say it, I think is almost universally known as a good guy in a lot of different circumstances, right? You know, the way he handles business, who he is as a person, things like that. It's always a pleasure to talk to him, and I feel like I've buttered him up enough. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Responsibid. It's Mr. Curt Kempton. Curt, always a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you.
Thank you, Sean. It's always awesome to be with you too.
And here on the podcast, we like to explore a lot of different topics, try to get people at different stages of their business and things like that. And what we're going to talk about today is sales. And I know sometimes when you say that, there's a reaction across the board. It could be good, bad, or indifferent. We want to kind of explore through there. But before we officially dive into the water, so right now we're just kind of tiptoeing the diving board here. I want to ask almost a little bit of, I don't say your background. I want to go all the way back to, kind of the very beginning. What I really want to like to focus in on, if you have this, at the top of your head here is, was there a moment during your business career where you felt kind of comfortable of like, I think to almost, I have some conclusions. I hesitate to say I know because you're always evolving, always learning. Yeah. But was there a point where you kind of felt that your confidence maybe outweighed your anxiety? Is there a moment in time or a part of your career that you can identify when that switch happened?
Well, business is such a spectrum. I can think of like four aha moments that just came to my mind that were all sort of spaced out, where I'm like, in this moment for this thing, I'm doing it. It's working. I've got to keep working this plan. Okay, 5. I just thought of another one. The thing is that like, I'll tell you the first aha moment that I really had was when my customers, like very early on, had called and responded to one of my flyers. This is like 4 or 5 days in. I'd put out flyer after flyer after flyer, and someone called on my flyer, this number that I had just bought specifically for this window cleaning business, and they like asked to buy our services. And I remember they were talking to me like I was a business, and that never happened before. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, keep putting those flyers out. This works. And then of course, probably hundreds of times after that, there's those little moments where you're like, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I actually was doing the right thing. Like those moments of confidence, they're like the rocket fuel that makes up for all those moments of like, well, that didn't work.
You've gone on, you said you had a couple of moments, and I know more are probably springing to your mind now. We got up to 5, but one in particular that I've heard you speak on a couple times is almost the relationship with sales. And I use those words kind of strategically because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, sometimes when you bring up that topic, you bring up that, that tool, that tactic, things like that, there's almost always a polarizing sort of reaction, or the very least is that's when people feel they're very concrete in what their feelings are. And then sometimes when you talk to them, they've never actually explored why. What was your first introduction to sales, so to speak, right? Like, when did you kind of look into it and I guess form that first opinion?
Well, first I was sold to, for years as a kid and as a young adult. I was sold to so many times by people who were good salesmen, but I was sold to a few times by people who were bad salesmen. And at the huge convention, I shared an experience about the Kirby vacuum cleaner coming into my house and almost tearing my marriage apart. We could go into that if we want, but that always stood out to me as, don't be that guy. Don't be that salesperson. And in trying to be true to that, I ended up really having some colossal failures by not serving my customer well, not serving my business well, not serving my family well. I did a lot of very bad things. Now, I recovered from that, and the moment that I can say, I'm looking back on the first time I ever gave packages to someone, I had always tried to undersell people because I didn't want to come across as manipulative or anything like that. So I put together good, better, and best. And the first time I ever put a package in front of someone, which is sort of a rarity that this would happen, but it just happened that the first person chose the premium package. And I remember thinking, well, I didn't tell him to buy that. I didn't manipulate him into that. He literally wanted to buy my window cleaning with a house wash with the tracks and the screens and the walkways pressure washed. And I remember thinking, when I put that on there, it was almost like I didn't think anyone would ever actually buy it. So that moment for me was a very growing moment when I realized that there are people who want to be served way higher than I'm giving them credit for.
And so you talk about serving your customers, because there's the adage that, you shouldn't be selling, you should just be giving options to buy, so to speak, right? That you're not trying to make something that doesn't fit, you're trying to make sure that it's very clear that there's probably an option for this particular buyer. And I think a lot of people that are hesitant or don't like calling themselves a salesman or any, that sort of narrative, it comes down to is they never want to feel like they're pushing, but they understand that their KPIs and some of those things are really judged on how much they are closing and booking new things. So that kind of internal push and pull, but it sounds like one of the things you started to identify. Sorry, go ahead if I cut you off there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but not even KPIs. Isn't your business's ability to serve your customer judged based on what you can sell? I mean, if a business has the cure to cancer and is unsuccessful in selling to even one person, wouldn't you call that business a failure? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if they didn't end up getting the product out, then yes, right? But I feel like if they did it at a loss and there was a greater good, then that there's success there.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, the business owners we deal with need to make a profit because their kids keep trying to eat meals every day. But but for our situation, no matter how good your service is and how much heart you have in it, I would challenge anybody listening to this podcast. Can you see a scenario where your sales are 0 and you're serving your customer? And I think that universally the answer to that question is that no, you didn't serve your customer. And of course you didn't serve your business either. So the word salesman has a stigma. I invented responsive because of that stigma, to be honest. I needed it because I had so much emotional baggage attached to the word salesman that I needed the system to do the selling and not me. I've grown a lot since then, and that's great. But you know what I do still love, and I cherish the fact that we've created a system that allows people, and this is what I'm hoping to talk about today, is sort of how to get people out of their shell by just doing the right thing a few times and realizing that, oh my gosh, the more I do the right thing, the more I realize that sales is actually my key to be able to reach the world in a meaningful way. It's the way your message gets out there. And some people might say that's marketing. That's true, but sales and marketing combined, that's the microphone and the speakers,
But you talked about it kind of, overcoming that stigma and kind of realizing it. And you talked about like getting someone out of their shell. In that case, you're talking about yourself and your team, correct? Not the customer.
Oh, right. Absolutely. In fact, the more I've gotten older and the more I have become more of a D personality, if you know about the DISC profile, a D personality is someone who just wants to get it done. Like, let's get in this, let's talk about it, let's not talk about it for forever, but let's just get to the meat and potatoes and get this done. The more I've sort of fallen into that sort of personality, which wasn't always the case, the more I've realized that there is a whole group of people out there who want you to sell to them. Stop talking, pitter-pattering around, and stop doing some, saying things that make you feel better. Just sell me what I'm trying to buy from you. And that would have been a revelation. If you told me that 10 years ago, that there are people like that, that would have been a complete revelation to me. And yet,
so someone hearing that statement might think of like, okay, well then I need to target those people that want to be sold. But that's not exactly what you're saying, though, correct?
No, I would say that you need to be confident enough in your sales that you understand that this person called and reached out to me to be sold. You need to lean into that, and you need to understand that there's a process. In fact, I would say there's 6 things that you need to do to make that process work fluidly, to build yourself a system filled with integrity, filled with the honor that comes with what you're trying to put into the world, and allow the person who wants to chit-chat push you back a little bit, but to be leaning into the fact that people are trying to buy from you. Stop trying to make it so hard for them. The whole like shut up and take my money situation, that is a very real thing. We talk ourselves out of sales. And I would venture to say it happens more often than not. But if you want to go through that list of 6 things, I'm more than happy to share them as a bullet point thing, and we could cut into any of them as you like.
Yeah, Kurt, it's 6 steps or 6 points. How did you label it?
I would say that it's 6 chronological steps in the journey for your customer that need to be engineered and thought out. Let's just start with number 1. Number 1 is the feeling that your company conveys. The example I give people is that your words and your actions and the gut feeling in a customer, they may not be in alignment at all. I'll just give you an example. You go to a used car dealership and a guy walks out there that's got this swagger and a gold chain swinging, right? And he's like, "Hey man, welcome to the car lot. What you looking for today?" And you say, "I'm looking for a truck." And he points at a car that's rusty. And he says, "This is the Peach you want to buy right here. She's a real sweet one. You're gonna love her." Like, did he hear a word I said? And he said, "That's a great car. I can clearly see there's rust on it." The words coming out of the mouth is, "I care about you. I'm going to help you get in the car. What do you want?" And the gut feeling that the customer has does not follow it. So the feeling is going to happen no matter what. If you don't engineer a feeling about your company, a way your customer should feel, they will still feel a certain way when they deal with you. Now, sometimes you will get lucky and everything will fall into alignment and it'll work. But unless you take a little bit of time to figure out, how do I want my customer to feel when I am working with them, it will engineer itself. One other quick example is the answering machine. The answering machine that says, "Your call is very important to us. We're sorry we missed you. Please leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you as soon as possible." The voicemail box for the party you've called is now full. You're saying your call is important, yet you didn't even answer the phone. Then you say, "We'll call you right back," and the mailbox is full. I can clearly see you don't call back. That's a very common thing in the service business. The second thing...
And I obviously makes sense for that to be at the top chronologically, because really the process can't even begin if you don't have a feeling identified, right? So it's almost...
The website introduces it. The voicemail on your phone introduces it. The way your technicians are seen when the customer is watching the technicians work at the other house, the signage on your van or your trucks. All of that stuff is creating a feeling. Step 1 is really, how do you want your customer to feel when they interact with your company? You won't be able to get it every time because there's going to be the influence from whatever their gut is, but you can only input what you can input into that, and you have a lot more control than you think you do. But if you don't know where you're starting from, you're never going to end there.
And that's what I talk about. That sometimes will almost eliminate, even before you get there, anyone that would have that feeling of, oh, I feel like I'm pushing someone in there. Is that you right from the top is, hey, this is who we are. This is the feeling that we're pushing out. And some people right off the bat might establish, okay, that's not exactly what I'm looking for, and before it even gets too far. So the second point on the list here.
Yeah, so the second point would be basically understanding what your promise is to the customer. What am I promising? And keep in mind that sleazy snake oil salespeople, they also can engineer a feeling and they also can engineer a promise. But these are the two things that are like, we'll call it the bait on the hook. Whatever you promise your customer can be much more powerful than you think it is. Many people out there said, I promise to house wash your house. I promise to steam clean your carpets. Well, the problem with that promise is that everybody in your industry is also promising that. There's no way to stand out, and there is no way to get a higher price because you're a commodity. So I encourage people to think about what is your promise that is special and what is the promise that your competitors dare not make. Because the better your promise is and the easier it is to keep, the more likely it is that your competitors will want to keep it or make that promise too.
Yeah, and you're just setting yourself up for further success that way. Of it kind of almost you're making a promise, but it's also kind of paving the pathway for the goal as well.
Yep.
So we're on to 3. We're halfway through thus far.
Yeah. So the next part is sort of how you lock in your integrity and separate yourself now from the slimy sales guy, the one that gave you the bad feelings, the one that has basically ruined your whole sales life. It's called integrity. I'm going to use the word accountability interchangeably here. So what I mean by that is that I promised you I was going to be the friendliest cleaning company you ever had in your house. And if I'm not, then this is how I hold myself accountable. See, the thing about honesty is that everyone says that they're honest. Most people think that they're honest, but they allow the cloudiness of just trust me, I'm honest, right? And they allow things to be left open to interpretation. Now, this is where your marketing and your sales will both have to sing the same song. This is where, if you want to be able to walk in with the confidence of a salesperson who is really, truly an honest salesperson, your accountability is what you're telling people. The honesty is what is proven. You don't have to tell someone you're honest. You tell them that you're accountable. But the ones who want to stand out that are bold, they'll engineer their accountability in as well. So we've engineered a feeling, we've engineered a promise, and then we engineer in accountability. And when we're doing our sales pitch, the sales pitch isn't about, we're so great, we're the best, we've been in business this long, we have these special uniforms, we have these special trucks, you should see our deionizer so that our water is so pure and clean. And the thing is that the customer's going, we, this is very, very much about you, isn't it? Where accountability is about them. It's about saying, this business only exists because we can prove to you that we're different or else. One thing I want to point out too is that when you hold yourself accountable, you stand apart from the sliminess and sleaziness of people who are in it for the transaction. Here's the thing that's really important to point out. The difference between a good and honest salesperson, the difference between a salesperson who is using their opportunity to make a megaphone of who they are out into the world that is for good, and the one who is just trying to make a buck, is that one cares about the transaction and the other one cares about the relationship. When you care about the transaction or the commission payout or getting the deal done right now so that I can go on and move to the next person, that person they are creating a feeling. They are projecting out into the world. The difference is that it comes from the wrong place, and therefore it's not going to build a business that they want in the long term. It's not going to attract probably the customer base they're looking for. And most importantly, it's going to make it so that the people who are having an experience with you now think salespeople are bad. And that's exactly the category I fell into.
Yeah, when I used to write scripts, this is the moment where you put parenthesis hold for applause. So I'm just going to hold for a moment, let people get their claps out, get their underline. As we transition on to the fourth point here in the list.
So the fourth point is contrast. So a classy person does not talk about other people. They talk about themselves. They talk about ideas. A classy person is not going to go into a sales pitch contrasting themselves against the competition in a way that's like, you don't want to deal with so-and-so. They're not that good at the such and such. Go with me because I'm so great. Again, that's a tactic of a snake oil salesman. That's a tactic of somebody who cares about the transaction, not the relationship. Contrast, as people who use ResponsiBid probably have heard a million times. I'm sorry, this is an important part to me. But this is where you provide solutions to your customer in a way that you can bring up the competition in a nice and classy way, but you're still talking about yourself. And by that I mean, hey, Mr. Hill, I'm so glad you had me over to give you a proposal today. You asked me to clean your carpets, and I've gone around and I've given you a quote. I put a quote together. You should know that there's 3 different packages that we offer. One package is the ability for you to just get your carpets steam cleaned. We'll vacuum everything first and then steam clean them. It's great. You're going to love it. This is basically what our competition does. And you'll notice that our prices are pretty close to the competition at $400 to clean your whole house. Now, we do have a package that we really like here at Responsibit or Acme Carpet Cleaning, and that is the deluxe package. People love this one because we actually go through and we clean off all your baseboards as we're going. After we're done with the extraction, we go through and we rake and stand everything up, and we apply a carpet protectant on it. So you'll end up with clean baseboards. Your carpets won't accept stains the same way. It's an absolutely amazing feature that we do. Now, the last thing we do is it's our premium. This one is where we go all out. Basically, we have a 3-year spot return guarantee. We'll take a picture of everything when we're done. We actually do this special spot removal, and it's going to be really important for you, Mr. Hill, because you have that dog that went in that room and went in this room and left these marks. Well, most carpet cleaning companies, when they come through, they just do what I showed you in the basic package, and those spots, they tend to return. But when you use our service, we can guarantee that those spots will never, ever, ever come back. And as a result, our customers with pets really love our premium package, so I would highly recommend that. But it comes with everything in the deluxe package plus this spot-free guarantee. Now, when I'm done talking about that, I was able to bring up my competition. I was able to bring up what makes me special, and I was able to bring up your needs and allow you to have enough things to research and understand that you're now free to make a decision. So when I give some contrast and I say, you can pay me this much and be this happy, you can pay me this much and be that happy, which is what most people do, or you can give me a ton of money and I can make you this happy. And when the customer hears that and they're attaching the value to the price, they go from being in research mode, which is plotting dots on the graph to figure out how happy they'll be and how much it'll cost. They move into a whole new mode, which is to say, well, that's the one that spoke to me. I have that much money in the bank. I think I would like to be that happy, and I would like to give you that much money. It wouldn't put me out. And there's nothing slimy about it because the customer's the one closing themselves. They're the one that's flipped from, I wonder how much it would cost, to, I'm ready to go forward. Now, I call that a self-closing job, but a customer might not close right at the last moment. But from this point forward, Sean, when I talk to you as a customer, if I'm going to follow up with you, which is my next point, when I follow up, now we have something to talk about on a value scale, not a price scale. It's, hey, I know you were looking at that deluxe package, and I know that you were really interested in your baseboards. We have something to talk about, not yes, no. This yes, no stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, that's spectacular. And so you kind of allude to it. Follow-up comes next?
Yep. So follow-up is what a responsible, genuine, and reputable company or person would do. Here's what I mean. When I used to give quotes, I was so nervous that they'd feel pressure from me that I would hand them a quote. As they're looking at it, I would run back to my truck and leave. I'd be like, all right, let me read anything, goodbye. And I would run off. And I was doing it because I thought I was serving the customer to not feel pressure, because I'd felt that before and I knew what it was like and I knew I hated it. So I was shielding my customer from that pressure. Well, as a result, I looked like a fly-by-night company. I looked like someone that they couldn't count on, someone they couldn't ever, if I never talked to them again, man, when they're trying to earn my business, they don't talk to me. What's going to happen if we have a problem? They're not going to return phone calls. Yeah. They're not going to ever get back to me. I'm dead in the water. So the follow-up game is to say, we are so reputable that we will not leave you alone until you're getting the experience you want. So that experience they want may unfortunately be another company. Let's use that as an example. Let's say I come in, give you the greatest sales pitch. They really want it. They got a quote from the $99 guy, the what do they call it? The Bucket Bob or the Chuck in a Truck or whatever these people call them. And they bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm going to go with the guy that's 1/5 of your price. And you say to them, well, maybe you followed up with them a couple times, and they finally say, Sean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go with you because I just, in all good conscience, I can't have you house wash my house for $400 when I've got a guy for $99 that's going to do it. And you say, ma'am, you look like, I'm sure you're making a great decision. I would have loved to have served you. We have not figured out how to match that price. Otherwise, I would. But I'll tell you this. If you ever need anything, I'm here for you. People say it all the time. We should hang out sometime. And then they never follow up. So as a person who is a genuine person, when I say we should, if you ever need anything, let me know. Here's the one that people tell me is the magic. This is magical. You reach out 2 weeks later and you say, hello, Mr. So-and-so. This is Sean. I'm just reaching out because, as you remember, a couple weeks ago I gave you a quote. And I know you went in another direction, but I just want to reach out, and I was thinking about you. I want to make sure everything went well. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Well, what do we know about the $99 guy? We know that the $99 guy has more work than he can handle. He doesn't have enough profit to grow his business. So as a result, he's walking around with a big anchor around his neck. So as this business owner who's not operating profitably, can't grow their business, can't scale and get people to do the work, but has more work than they can handle, a few things are going to happen. Number one, they are going to do shoddy work because they've got to get from place to place to place. Number two, they won't make it to every single place. They will stop coming. Number three, they will not answer their phone. So when they don't show up and you call them and text them, their phone is blowing up. They can't handle it. And so what happens? The customer has a negative experience maybe in workmanship, maybe in whether they showed up or not. Maybe it's just that when they did show up, they did a fine job except for the fact they ruined all their plans. When you reach out, you are sending a very razor-sharp message that cannot be misunderstood. You are saying to them, I didn't earn your business, and I still communicated with you. Wow, I couldn't get this other guy to communicate forever. Yeah. Number two, I'm so confident in my work that I'm standing right here. Even though you embarrassed me when you said that I was too expensive, I still came here. I still showed up to let you know that even though I know you said that I was too expensive, I'm still here if you need me. Well, now the embarrassment of them having to reach out to have you come out and fix the workmanship or show up when the guy that said he was going to do it for cheaper didn't show up. Now all of a sudden you're in the driver's seat. Now the customer's saying, Sean, thank you so much for reaching out. I thought this guy, he stood me up 3 different times. He never came out. I think you were right. We probably should have done business with you. You now have one more loyal customer. This is someone who already said no, by the way. This is someone you thought you'd never see again. And by the way, had you not reached out, it is too embarrassing to reach back out. All of us humans are just trying to make it through life without looking dumb. And this person does not want to call and say, hey, Sean, remember when I told you were super expensive? Well, I'm ready to eat crow now. No, they're much more likely to go to Google and find someone else and try and start over. It saves face. People want to save face. So follow-up can mean a lot of different things throughout the customer journey. I just gave you one example of a declined customer, and I tell you that is a magical one. But we're all so busy that none of us follow up. But we're sending a message to our customer, we should hang out sometime, and then we walk away.
And I appreciate using the example almost of the declining customer because, one, I think that does kind of address directly the people that, might feel that sales become naggy or, kind of overbearing. But I think it also solidifies even more of that chronological order. Right? Because the following up comes where you've already established the 1, 2, 3, 4. You've talked about the feeling, you talked about the promise, you have your accountability, you showed how you're separate, and maybe now they're dealing with the separate. They heard the contrast, and they heard all that, but now they're seeing it, and they realize, oh no, and then just lifting that, responsibility from them to follow up and just be present. And again, not in a pushy barge back to the front of the line way. It's just, it's like when you're at the school dance and you go dance with one person just a little bit too aggressive and you see the guy over the corner and you're like, oh, maybe that person. That's what I pictured in my mind when you talk about following up with the declining thing, is that they're in a situation now and all you're providing is maybe even just that lifeline, but now it gives you the opportunity to prove yourself and maybe go from a lifeline to a lifetime. There you go. I'm gonna quote that one.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. So
I was inspired by the if we're late you don't play whatever, I forgot already. Sixth one, Kurt. Let's bring it on home.
Well, let me just say the last thing about follow up that you just really hit on is that you can now talk in your follow up about contrast. You can talk about your integrity and your accountability. You can talk about their promise. You can reiterate the feeling. The reason they're in this specific order is because some people will learn by hearing you. other people will learn through other experiences, and you're there for all of it. So that is follow up in a nutshell, is allowing the person to come to your promise that speaks to them when it's on their timetable, and not losing an entire Thanksgiving meal of crumbs that have fallen to the floor over the years. You own all that. That's all yours to take. You just have to be there for it. So anyway, last thing, number 6 is gratification. How is your customer going to feel gratified along the way? Now, in this world, when we talk about gratification, we're usually talking about instant gratification. But gratification can be different than instant gratification. Instant gratification is, it's 8 o'clock at night, I want a price, I want to get it right now. And as all ResponsiBidders listening go, hey, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about ResponsiBid's feature. Actually, what I'm talking about is the customer journey. And I want to make sure that no one misunderstands that just because the ResponsiBid guy was talking about instant quotes. I want you to make sure you understand what I'm talking about is saying, as I engineered my feeling, my promise, the honesty / accountability, as I talked about the contrast, as I am speaking in my follow-ups, at what points am I giving the customer these moments of win? These moments when they go, I was looking for this and I got it. I was looking for that and I got it. Wow, I didn't even know I was looking for that and I got it. Those little gratification moments are sort of the breadcrumbs that get you from point A to point B, which is point A is, I don't know who you are, and point B is the customer saying, I would never use another lawn care company other than this one. These moments of gratification is the same feeling as scoring a point. It's the same feeling as hitting a three-pointer, right, Sean? In the basketball game?
Yeah, there you go.
It's these moments where the customer goes, I just won. I can't go to another company and start over again because I'm not going to have this win. These points aren't going to count with other companies. And those wins might look like these moments of the customer getting something that they didn't even know that they wanted. It might be a moment where they feel like, oh, they threw something in for free that I wasn't expecting because we got this far into the journey. It may be the fact that when you come to clean the thing, you promised that you were going to do something that was really important to them, and then you did it, and you still exceeded their expectations. This stuff does not happen by accident. It does not happen by accident at all. All of these things that I've talked about, all 6 of these items, are things that you build in, and the coolest part about business is that each and every one of these steps are things that you are going to be able to design, and no one can copy it because you invented it. And if it's really good, it will speak to your customer and it will make your competitors scared.
Well, saying on that last point of gratification, as you're describing it, because we talk a lot about, that moment of peak happiness, obviously, when that will start, kind of when you're going to get your reputation, stuff like that. And I always thought of those moments you're talking about as almost like the base camps along the way to that moment of peak happiness, right? And so if you're climbing a mountain, you get 2 base camps, you might look at another mountain, but you're very rarely, if you're 2 base camps up, you're going to look at another mountain and be like, oh, we should have did that one. You're going to maybe evaluate where you are, but you're going to be looking towards that ultimate goal. And if you're able to give enough base camps along the way, then majority, if not everybody's going to make it to that moment of peak happiness. And that's, the ultimate, the pinnacle. So I really loved kind of the imagery that you brought to that whole thing of, there's certain ways you can get those key moments, but the big impactful journey is going to kind of get you that big win at the end. But ultimately, it's going to kind of keep people involved and invested. And that's what you're making loyal customers, and that's when you're really getting true integrity and accountability, and you really are describing your contrast. You're living up to your promises, and ultimately they're getting that feeling that maybe they didn't bring at the beginning, but they kind of want it at the end. Yeah, I appreciate that response, Curt, and everything that you kind of shared today. If someone's listening to this podcast, wants to connect with you, learn more about you, anything like that, where should we direct them towards?
Probably the easiest way would be to just go to responsibid.com. There's a chat feature there. If you want to connect with me there, I can tell you my email address. It's Curt with a C. Everyone always spells it with a K, but it's C-U-R-T at Symphosize, which is basically an impossible word to spell, SYMPHOSIZE.com. That's the company that makes ResponsiBid. People are always like, what is Symphosize? Well, it's a terrible word is what it is. But anyway, feel free to email me, or you can just go to responsibid.com. Send a chat in if you have a question. I and my team monitor that chat, and we can bump up against each other there and get in touch. But yeah, I love this industry. I love it, and any way I can serve, I'm always excited to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing a little bit of service here today, joining us on the Nice Job Podcast. And all the information Curt shared, the contact information, we'll have that down in the video description, or if you're listening on the podcast, you can see it in the episode notes and description as well. But Curt, always a pleasure. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I always enjoy the conversation I have with you, and every single time I end up learning something new. So my sincere thanks and appreciative of your time today on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks so much for checking out the video. Remember, you can listen to the full episode of our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout, or wherever you get your podcasts. Here on YouTube, I want to invite you to subscribe by clicking right there, or you can check out 2 other videos. One, our most recent podcast, and the other to learn a little bit more about NiceJob. So click one of those things, and I can go home.